it.
Yeah, exactly. They totally get the working from home thing. So it's really comfy, like super soft, a bit oversized, perfect.
So do you do like Business Friday then now, if you're not doing Casual Friday anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the reverse Casual Friday thing
I love it.
will now become a thing. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we know nothing about the topic, right? But luckily, we have an expert on who will share with us what kind of practices we can all apply. And Coral, you're a development team lead, a developer, and a community event organizer. And you care very much about the people side of technology, making sure that our industry is as inclusive and empathetic as possible.
Yeah,
so
I try to. Yeah, Mark, that hoodie is impressive. I love it.
Yes, I borrowed it from Floor, but I'm not giving it back.
Sweatpants and hoodies. That's it. Just 2020.
Thanks.
So whenever you're ready, we're very ready.
Sure, I will share my screen right now. And hopefully you all can see that screen.
Yes, perfect.
Great. So we'll just get started. So Fleur's already given an introduction to me, but I'm a development team lead and a community meetup organizer. And this year, obviously, a lot of that's went virtual. And you can catch me on social media or on my blog, just on the handles there. And in case you can't tell by the accent, I'm based in Scotland. I'm in Glasgow. I'll try my best to speak as slow as possible. And like Fleur mentioned, I'm really interested in the people and the community side of tech, as well as I'm a developer, a .NET developer. So I help run the meetups for Ladies of Code Glasgow, for the Glasgow and Braco meetup. And I also I'm a co-host of a podcast with 3 awesome developers called Candid Contributions, and we talk about open source development, but we also talk about the people side of open source, and there's so many different ways to contribute. So as part of that, what I've really been thinking about in 2020, you see it not in the context of engineers or anything like that, but you hear quite a lot in 2020 about self-care. And this is the definition that we're talking about here. So the practice of taking action to preserve or improve your own health. And the second definition there that I included, it's particularly during periods of stress. And I think that's really important this year with the pandemic, where everything is just a little bit extra turned up to 100 on the stress scale. So anything we can do to make our own health, our mental and our physical health better, and to be mindful of it, I think is really important, and we must try our best to do that. I will say this isn't I'm a developer, I'm not a doctor, so if you have serious concerns or if you have issues, obviously reach out to a healthcare professional. But this is me. What I could have called the talk was what I've learned about self-care while working from home as a developer, but it just wasn't quite as catchy as self-care for developers. So this is just what I've learned and things that I've picked up over the last 9-10 months of working from home as a developer, and a part of a development community too. So the basics. I'm really, really rubbish at the basics of self-care, including drinking water. Like basic things that humans need to survive, I'm really bad at. So bad enough in the office, whereas at least I've got folks around me to say, hey, that water's been sitting on your desk since this morning and you've still not drank it, or making sure I go and get cups of tea and things like that. I'm really, really bad at that. So may seem like an obvious one, but let's get the basics down and look after the things that we need to do to look after ourselves. And it's amazing how much staying hydrated really helps. And move. I'm really, really bad at just sitting right here in this corner all day and all night. So trying to get up and to move. Lunchtime yoga has become something I try and do, even if not real yoga, and it's just kind of stretching around at lunchtime, or getting out for a run when I can, because I know that's something that really helps both my physical and my mental health a lot. So yoga and running won't be it for everyone, but find what works for you. And even if it is going for a walk or just making sure you get up out from your desk. I know a lot of people have standing desks as well, and I've really recommended that. Didn't quite work for me. Maybe I have to persevere, but whatever works for you, just make sure that you move around. we don't have our commute at the moment. We don't have even, you know, walking around the office to different meeting rooms and things. So you very much can just sit in one space all day if you let yourself. So have to be conscious and mindful of that and actually make the effort to move. And sleep is something that I know myself and a lot of people with the change in routine this year was interrupted. But you know, you don't have your usual, like I say, commute to and from work, and the commute back home from work was always quite a good way for me to mentally, you know, close one door and then come home and then have evening routine and sleep well. It was something that I had to kind of adapt to quite a bit with working from home, and I know a lot of people have been the same too. So if you have any advice that you've been following, like do share with us, because I know different people have different techniques. For me, it's podcasts. Whenever I'm really interested in a podcast, I seem to fall asleep, which is annoying, and I have to go back and find the place where I was. Yes, those are the basics. Let's make sure we look after ourselves at a most fundamental level. We hydrate, we move, and we sleep. And then from there, one of the things that is really important is the work-life balance. And I know it's something we hear about a lot anyway, even before the current situation that we're in. But I do think while working from home, that work-life balance is even harder to find. And something that I have heard from quite a lot of people is you're not working from home, you're living at work. And I think it's quite important to see it that way sometimes, of make sure it doesn't cross over to the wrong work-life balance. And to balance the two, essentially. So one thing that I've found really important, and I know a lot of my friends have too, is making sure the environment that you're working in is comfortable and friendly, and that you're happy there, even if it's, you know, I've got little Lego pieces on my desk. I know so many people like me have invested in plants. I don't think house plants have ever been happier than in 2020, because so many people are trying to make their workspace as enjoyable as possible. And even if it's putting the Christmas tree up weeks earlier than you normally would, if it makes you happy and it makes you comfortable and enjoying being at work or being at home, then yeah, go for it. And logging off. This is one that I really, really struggle with. And as a developer, I know we're not in person, but I'd say put your hands up if you've ever done this. So many times I know that my husband has heard this. Yeah, I'm going to log off soon. I'm really close to fixing this one thing. I just need to compile it and test it, and then I'll log off. And, you know, 2 hours later, I'm testing another version. But yeah, it's definitely the last time though I fixed it this time. And we've all been here as developers, and we've probably all been in the situation too, where if we do give up on it for the night and then go back to it the next day, we'll probably fix it in the first 5 minutes, and you need to switch off and let your brain think about it in the background. And quite often in the morning, you will have fixed it. So don't always follow my own advice on this one, but we must try to. And don't just keep working on the same issue into the evening. And as part of that, actually switching off, logging off and switching off are 2 different things. So yeah, I can close my laptop, but one thing I realised is my brain just kind of ticks along, still thinking about the same problems I was trying to work on. And I do think not having to commute is a big part of that. That used to be where I processed my day. On the walk home, I used to have like a half-hour walk home, which I don't have now. So ways to switch off, find whatever your thing is. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Fleur mentioned earlier about knitting. I've been crocheting the last few weeks to try, and I like to keep busy, but not to be looking at screens all the time. So that's been the way for me to keep busy, but to not be always looking at a screen and a device. And also reading as well. I'm really quite guilty of reading a lot of technical books or books around the tech industry. So I've really tried in the last couple of months to read a lot of fiction as well, to just really switch off from coding, from tech, and just from work in general. And we're all on calls all the time at the moment, and what I do think that we sometimes miss out on is that walk to the meeting chat or the start of the meeting chat when you're waiting for folks to all join and to get started that you would have in real life, but less so working from home. So I do think it's important where it's appropriate in the meeting to still have time for that catch up with colleagues, and the same for meetups as well. So I know there's a lot of virtual meetups. I think it's really great to not just jump straight into the talks, into the presentations, but also make time for the social conversation, and make sure that our brains are getting that part of kind of social interaction that we need and that we're used to getting before everything was virtual. But on a kind of similar but opposite note, Zoom fatigue is a real thing, and I did find that myself and some friends at the start of working from home and everything being virtual were saying meetings are just so much more exhausting than they were. Like, I could sit in a workshop all day physically and not be this tired. Like, why is it? And there it has been proven, why it may be like that. And apparently even the delays of it can be like between 1 and 2 seconds a delay sometimes between you speaking and someone responding, and your brain picks up on that, and it's different to what it's used to processing, and it's having to work that bit harder to try and do all the things that we do without even thinking about it. So like reading kind of social cues or people hand gestures or anything like that. So our brains are having to work harder just to do the same thing as we've done previously, which is go to meetings or have conversations with people. So Zoom fatigue, or Teams tiredness, as I like to call it, it's real, and it's okay to be a bit more tired after a day of meetings than we'd used to be. And I think it's important not to beat yourself up about that. And even I know that Teams has come up, I think Zoom has come up with a feature where you can hide your own camera view, because that's another thing people have really struggled with, is that you're not used to looking at yourself all day in that little corner where it shows your camera. And it's kind of like having a whole meeting in a meeting room, but in front of a mirror, where you have to look at yourself the whole time. And it's just something that, again, that our brains aren't used to doing, and it's that extra tiring. So although meetings, with lots of meetings, there's lots of virtual catch-ups, a lot of social Zoom calls and things like that, but sometimes it's okay to say no, or to say yes, but I'm not putting my camera on. And I think even acknowledging that, and even saying to other people, you'll realise that a lot of other people are feeling the same way too. But what, through all of this, like I said, is what I've learned the last 9 or 10 months. But what's right for you? And that's the important thing. Different people are different, and different things work for different people. And I think it's important to be mindful, be conscious of what works for you and what doesn't work for you, or any days where you're more tired than you would have been, or you're not as great mentally as you have been other days, or days where you're feeling really great. Then take note of that. What happened that day? Any changes to routine that might have influenced that, and take note of it. And yeah, what might affect both your mood and physically? If you went for a walk that day and then felt great in the afternoon, then observe that, take note of that, and maybe that's something you could build into your routine a few days a week. Or if your mood was really good after you changed your workspace a bit, and I moved from working at my dining table to actually getting a dedicated desk a few months into working from home. And although it's in the same room and I can almost touch the dining table, it made a lot of difference just having a dedicated workspace that I can leave in the evening. So take note of what helps, and acknowledge that. And it's really, really important to be kind to yourself, because I think it's really easy when you're working from home to maybe be negative, or when you have had a bad day or you're not as in great a mood, to blame yourself, or to think it's only you. Other people are experiencing this too. We're all doing this for the first time. Even folks that have been working from home for years acknowledge that that's not the same as working from home in 2020. So be kind to yourself, the way that you would give yourself the advice that you would give a friend. And it's all about learning and adapting and trying something. If it doesn't work, then that's fine. Learn from it and try something else. And if it does work, great. And it would be really good to share what does work for you, what you found works. And if we could tweet on the hashtag developer self-care, it would be really, really awesome to start a conversation of what's worked for some people, what hasn't worked for people. And we can all kind of learn from each other. And that's me. That's hopefully in time. I know we're running a little bit over, but yeah, please do tweet and share, and we can chat about what works for each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Carol. I have to admit, I'm definitely guilty of not taking too much care of myself, because especially the logging off part, I'm very bad at that. I know that. So I definitely need to have a bit more self-reflection when it comes to self-care and working from home. So this is a good reminder of doing so.
Yeah, and on Twitch, one of our viewers shared that they use music for productivity, and also people are what keeps them positive. So yeah, please keep sharing what makes you happy, and indeed use the hashtag.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for having me.
All right, we are ready for our next speaker, I think.
And it's our last session.
Oh yeah.